How's it going, my friends? It's Carpo here. It's a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. I guess I should be listening to the Moody Blues. I wanted to talk a little bit about just life. I don't really have a definition for this particular video or a title. I guess it's more just about finding the strength within yourself to know who you are and to do the best you can, and more to cope with other people and their bullshit as well, to deal with politics, to deal with workplace, to deal with all the things we have to cope with in order to make it through our lives. When we look back, hindsight, as they say, is 20/20. You look back on your life and you think, I could have made this decision, I could have done this better, I could have made more of an effort here, and it seems like we're constantly beating ourselves up. And it's universal, because sometimes we feel it within our own hearts that, I should be doing something different or better, and then we start to feel lonely, and those thoughts kind of back up and we think, I guess that's just the way I feel, and the rest of the world knows what they want, and look at all these go-getters out there, and wow, I'm just a failure. And a lot of people really feel this way, and I feel strongly that this is to blame for much of the depression out there in the world and anxiety, especially in the Western society when it comes to trying to climb a corporate ladder, to try to fit in, to try to even get along with your siblings, with your friends, your family, people that you've met throughout your life as we change and we interact in different ways. And sometimes we step back and say, whoa, wait a minute. What is it that I really want out of life? And I guess before I go rambling on about this, I should say that the point of this video is to arm people, or rather to give my opinion on a situation that we all encounter, which is coping with the day-to-day mundane activities of life, as well as the people that we interact with, on a basis where we're not driving ourselves insane. In essence, a lot of people out there deal with abuse constantly, whether it be physical, verbal, or otherwise. And we get so wrapped up and so used to it that husbands and wives can insult each other, call each other names, call each other losers, slam doors on each other, slap, harm each other. And that's considered normal by some people. And in my opinion, I've been with my wife for 20 years. We've been married for almost 8 years. And we've never gotten a physical altercation in that time. And I don't think we ever would. But, of course, we've argued and had our disagreements. If you don't have healthy disagreements, then, there's maybe something wrong that you're, hiding away. But then there's also the part of us that we set aside in order to cope with those around us. A lot of folks, I would say, choose your company wisely. And this can be done with friends. When I was younger, I had to let go of a lot of what I called friends, especially when I went through some legal issues and I didn't want to get myself in trouble with people, and made some mistakes. I screwed up. I didn't make any drastic mistakes, but I was using substances I probably shouldn't have been using, and interacting with people who didn't just use them recreationally the way I did, but rather decided to steal and rob and lie and cheat people and get themselves in trouble. And therefore, even one of them ratted me out and I got myself in trouble. Twice I got in trouble for other people's fuck-ups because I was with the wrong person at the wrong time, or the wrong person said something to save their own ass that got me in trouble. Now, that's what I mean by pick your company wisely. And in the years afterward, I learned to wean down my friends list to just a few good friends, and realized that if you can trust one or two people, you've got it made in life. That's really all there is. It's just being able to have a couple people in your life that you can lean on. A lot of folks seem to think that having more friends is better, and you'll get over that in time. Believe me. Having more friends is just more work. It's kind of like more money. I'd like to say a lot of folks think that the more money you have, the more secure you feel, therefore the happier you'll be. But if you ask people, what they say is that there's a lot more management and worry about where the money's being spent, how it's being spent. When you're broke, right? And I'm not saying that we don't, that don't yearn for money, because of course that's just kind of the poor man's way of saying, oh, I don't need money. No, money is important to live, but money is currency. And the word currency is the same as current, which is flow. That's why they call it cash flow. And the idea is that money is supposed to flow. Money is just part of life. Well, friendships are supposed to flow as well. Friendship is a type of currency. If you have people in your life that you can trust and depend on, then treat them with respect and respect their boundaries. But also learn to stand up for yourself. If you have those in your life who are abusing you physically or mentally, then you stand up for yourself. One thing I found is that it's, and the most important aspect of this, I think, is that nobody's ever 100% right or wrong in a lot of disagreements we have, let's say, with those we love or those we've never met. We constantly have disagreements with people. The question is anyone really wrong and right in this situation, or is it just differing opinions that may or may not really have a full answer? I guess a good example of that would be politics, or how the world should operate, or whether we should give aid to a specific country, or getting down to where there's a lot involved in understanding how we got to where we are, and whether or not this is benefiting us as a society, whether or not it benefits the other person. It could come down to just a friend of yours who has a problem and you want to help them. Let's say an addiction. This is a great one. A person who has a heroin addiction, and you help them, and they continue to abuse your friendship. They abuse your kindness. They may take advantage or even steal from those they love. And in the end, you wonder, do I keep helping this person I love, or am I just enabling them? And I think that's a lot of the times why we have disagreements with people. We sometimes enable others by just kind of going, and going along with agreeing just for the sake of not arguing. Now, I'm an argumentative type. I've always been. And it's not for the sake of being right. It's for the sake of all of us being right, if that makes sense. If you understand the Aristotelian argument, Aristotle had a different idea of what an argument was. An argument was two people posing ideas, and you might get heated in debate, but in the end, it's not the people that should be affected. You should never be personally affected by how another person thinks. It should all be about the resulting seeds that are planted and the new ideas that are shared between the people. And that's a really hard thing to convey to people. Because if you haven't studied ancient philosophy, you don't understand the value of a debate and argument. I mean, hell, we have debate class in school. Why do we have debate? What is a debate? It's argument. It's an argument that's posited with actual, ideas. So let's say that somebody in your family is religious, and they want you to be a Christian, and they've spent their whole life, with, let's say, your parents, because this is a huge one with a lot of kids. Their parents are religious, and their parents are willing to disown their own kids because they won't take the same religion. And this is one of those issues where a kid has to think, well, okay, do I just, humor my parents and pretend like I care about this religion and go to church with them if I really don't? Or should I just be straight up honest and get this over with? It's very unfortunate how many people are disowned and excommunicated because they leave their church. It's one of the greatest travesties, I think, in along the lines of what I'm describing here, which is we have differences of opinion. All of us do. But when it comes to religion, people will actually disown their entire families. And it's not the person who leaves the religion who ever disowns their family. It's the people who are in the religion who disown the person who left. This is excommunication at its worst. It's a horrible thing. And when you really think about it, it shows the lack of tolerance and understanding within that religion or that particular group. And no, I'm not attacking religion as a whole, because I've been down that road before and I've had lots of videos where I've discussed this already. But I believe that religion can be very helpful to a lot of people. There are a lot of, we've been watching A Little House on the Prairie. My wife loved it when she was a kid, and I watched it once in a while. But we started watching it from the beginning, I think on Amazon Prime or something, and I didn't realize the whole first episode was kind of a movie that was done as like a trailer or a pilot. It was pretty good, but they were religious, of course, and the wife, her whole thing is about church and making sure that the kids can get to church. And I thought about just how important that is to people. And I used to laugh at that, but it's hope for people. And so I never dismiss a person's hope. And in other words, if I'm having a discussion with someone and we disagree, and they believe in a heaven, they believe in something greater, I'm not going to poke holes in their story to make them feel bad or be wrong. So if a person's being positive about possibilities, I tend to say, live and let live. When a person's telling me how to live, it's a different story, of course. But also, if a person's not talking about the positivity, but if the other angle of that is when people I know start dwelling on the negative in the world or start pointing out, these things that they see as the negative, then I always I probably push for further understanding. I want the person to explain exactly why they feel the way they do. And I tend to get met with resistance. When you ask people to really explain their own why they seem to have a negative view of things, they really have a hard time doing it sometimes. It's just like, well, the world's fucked and I can see this happening, and it all comes back to the way that we perceive the world as individuals. Just like if you grew up in a small community that was Christian or Muslim in some forest community somewhere, you're going to share the values of the people, the tribe. And tribalism is rampant. But with the internet, it's allowed tribalism to cross paths. In other words, we could separate ourselves into our little groups in the past. But with the internet, that's all changed. A comment section can become a travesty in itself. And it's crazy. The things that people say to one another. And along the lines of comments, that's kind of how I decide what I think is a worthy notion to entertain or idea or something really worth investigating further. It depends on the people who are involved and interested in that subject and how they behave with one another. In other words, put it simply, how civil are the people who are positing a question or an idea? So, and I find that, like, for example, the conspiracy community, they tend to have a lot of comments that are in the one-liners, a lot of misspelled words, and people talking about the Illuminati and the New World Order. And it's changed over the years because I've followed it for the past 20 years or so. But it's not really about the terms or what's going to happen to the world. It's really just about looking for a doom and gloom end. And I understand because I was there at one time. I was like just hoping for the apocalypse, if you will. But, then you grow up and you realize that you got to live your life and that humans will find a way to move on. We always have. And the shit will probably hit the fan one day, but so what? I have to wake up tomorrow morning, got to feed my kids. And there's just so much division right now that it's really hard to find a way to connect with your friends and family and a way to relate to people the way that... let me put it this way. It's not that anything's really different. It's just that we know more about the way the world and people really think than we did before. There was a time when we wondered whether other people believed what we did, but we just assumed that they probably did. Even the people at your own church, let's say if you go to church, you might think that everyone has the same idea of what your God is, or Jesus, or Muhammad, or whatever it may be. And then you find out that, wait, this person, well, they sit differently, or they pray differently, or they have a different yoga position than me. As the new age kind of bullshit has infiltrated the world again. And I fell for it, so I can talk shit about it. I've fallen for the new age a while back because it was just so... It wasn't that I fell into any particular belief system, but rather had this hope that what people were telling me, this whole positive change and breakthrough and new spiritual realm and the age of Aquarius, that all this maybe had some relevance, and I looked more further into it, into my charts and birth charts and astrology, and started thinking, okay, this is just a pipe dream for people who really want to, create their own reality, and that's fine too, but it's not for me, and I moved on. And I felt that way with most things. Very few things that I've looked into have really mattered. I just don't give a shit. But there are a few things that do, and one of those is philosophy. And philosophy, I believe, is the route to understanding the self. And philosophy is the love of wisdom. It's the love of picking apart ideas and subjects, trying to understand them on a different level. And more than that, self-reflection. So for me, it's taking kind of a Western philosophical outlook and combining it with Buddhism and adding some Zen kind of spice to it to make it a joke. To where whenever I get too serious into a study or a belief or something, I just laugh at myself and move on to something else. Or I don't mean not take anything seriously, but rather not take anything seriously, I guess. I'm not so wrapped up in what's going on in the world that I'm going to get angry or yell about it or get pissed. It's just not, it's not worth it. Like I said, there's not always a right and wrong answer. There's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world, and it's fascinating to me, and I'm just trying to understand it as best I can and share what I've learned. And so my message here is to try to get along with as many people as you can, but don't overrate the value of having a bunch of friends and a bunch of people who understand you. It's hard enough to even get a few people who understand us. Thank God I have my wife who knows my, the depth of my soul. She knows where I'm coming from. And she knows when I'm full of shit. And so do I. And that's another thing. Make sure you know when you're full of shit. If you can't laugh at yourself, if you can't say, man, I'm an idiot sometimes, then you've missed the boat on that one. It's really important because we're all fools. And it's hard for us to want to allow our egos to be damaged because of that. But admitting we're wrong, I've been wrong so many times in my life, so many different subjects, that I just let go of pretending that I understand what's going on in the world. Just say, look, I understand as best I can. I'm not going to try to prove it to you. I'm not going to try to prove it to anyone else. If they ask questions or we have a discussion, then I'll bring it up. But I'm not here screaming on the street corner on my soapbox saying, oh, the world's going to end, nor is the world going to be some utopia. The world's going to be what the world's going to be. It doesn't matter. It's all what's in here, and here, and here. Our hearts, our souls, our minds, this whole being a human thing. And when you wake up tomorrow morning and you think, I'm all crusty, like, God, what is being human? If you're anything like me, that there's a point in the morning where you wake up and think, wow, it's a chance to do it again. It's a whole new day. What are we going to do today? It's a beautiful thing. We don't understand life. We can't pretend that we understand why we're here, where we're going. But while we're here, we can at least say, hey, we're on some connection level and talk about our experiences. And so here I am speaking to a digital camera, putting it onto this little collection lens with these little pixels that put it onto this card, which I'm going to transfer to the computer, which will transfer it to your computer. And this amazing, weird, strange, digital, microscopic world that we live in, it's fucking awesome. Pardon my language. It's just amazing to be a human. Every single day, I'm just like, why do people fight over such trivial shit? Why do people feel so strongly about this or that when they don't even really understand the depth of it? It mostly comes down to people following other people or listening too much to what other folks say, and that's why I'm glad that a lot of people aren't watching cable network news anymore. It was just a bunch of bullshit. It's toxic. Watching the news is toxic. I feel the same way about watching commentators, whether it's left or right-leaning, commentaries on the news, people's opinions. I really have to step away from that too and just look at the world through the lens of my own mind. Look at the people, talk to the people. We all have weird thoughts and strange beliefs and ideas in our minds. We can't pick each other apart for them, but rather we've got to live with one another and live within this world. And it's crazy. You can see it as a horrible place, which a lot of people do, or you can see it as something amazing, and that's there's a lot of complicated shit involved in that, you know, with neurochemistry. But I know that over time you can change. I had one of my subscribers comment the other day that they used to grind their teeth, or that they clench their jaw and grind their teeth a lot. And I was like, wow, I used to do that all the time. That's how my teeth got all screwed up. And that's why I had to replace all of them. They got all chipped and busted up, and I was like, man, how did I stop grinding my teeth? How did I stop my anxiety? Because there were times when I thought that I was happy and I thought that I had conquered my anxiety. But I realized that I was fearing stupid things like life itself. And I actually came to terms with the fact that I thought I was happy in my mind. But, I mean, I was happy externally. But internally, there's like this fear of death, fear of getting sick, fear of money, the fear of not knowing where I'm going or where I come from. Call it an existential crisis, because we all have them. And I'm still living through one right now. I'm having some issues right now in my head where I'm like, what do I do? How am I going to move forward with this and change? Because at 43, I'll be 44 next month. And it's crazy. It's like, wow, 44, holy shit. Where'd the time go? You know? And yeah, I know some of y'all are 50, 60, 70, like, oh, you don't know nothing yet. And I know as I get older, that'll happen. And, God, I can't imagine if I'm still sharing my thoughts on video, or what it's going to be like when I am 70. I mean, what's the world going to be like? It's just, we don't know. We just never know. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to y'all later. Have a wonderful day. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. I could be one of those guys that says it on every video, but I won't. But I have for $1 a month, you can support my channel. And I've also wanted to say thank you to... I've had a few emails from a couple videos I made recently. I get sometimes private emails, and then as well long heartfelt comments. And I want people to know that I read them all and respond as best I can. Sometimes I'm wrapped up in something right when I'm reading something that's important, and I just leave a quick comment to let people know that I did read it. But it's hard for me to type. I'm not a fast typist, and I use voice to text sometimes, but responding takes a while. I appreciate all the comments, you know, because I know all of you are living through similar realities. You know, we're all in the same reality, but not the same reality. And so I'm glad that I've met a lot of you and that we've been able to interact. You know, I guess that's it. Take care, my friends. Be well. Talk to y'all again.